This is the Tri-State Lacrosse Playoff Special. Brought to you by Lax Lessons and Athleteography.
Hi again, everyone. This is Joe Lombardi with our first ever Lax Lessons Tri-State Special. This week, we're going to be focusing on the playoffs coming up in the Tri-State region, and we've talked about it a lot. More participation in lacrosse has created more parity and as a result, more unpredictability. And that is definitely going to be the case, I can guarantee it, in the postseason. We are going to traverse the Tri-State, starting out in Connecticut, moving on to Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk, then making our way to New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, the whole kit and caboodle when it comes to the nation's #1 hotspot for lacrosse, the New York, New Jersey Tri-State region. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our Tri-State Playoff Preview Special. We begin in Connecticut, and what better place to begin? That's where we are right now, folks, the home of the red-hot blue wave of Darien. Darien improving to 12-0 with a huge 10-4 win over a strong Greenwich team that entered that contest at 11-1. Darien really on a roll right now. If you look at this team, some outstanding play from a good senior nucleus that includes goaltender Phil Hufford, UMass-bound Peter Lindley, and a bunch of other guys with plenty of experience at the varsity level. Andrew Pugliese has come up big in the face-off X, the defense playing outstanding in front of Hufford. Then you have sophomores contributing on this team too, like Jack Niffen, Colin Minikis. It's all added up to a tremendous amount of success for Coach Jeff Braemeyer's Blue Wave. Kid I mentioned, Phil Hufford, headed off to Yale. Folks, he had maybe the save of the season in high school lacrosse. It came against the kid Tyler Dunn from Manhasset. We're going to take a look at it and let Phil describe the action to you. Here it is.
Dun's a great shooter. He'd already had a couple of goals up until that point. I knew as soon as he beat his man down the alley and got right on the crease, I knew that he was going to have a pretty good look. And I just tried to hold my pipe and stay high and try to bait him low. And as soon as I saw that he was going high, just explode high. And hopefully I could take him as much as I could and snag the shot, which I did.
I mentioned the Greenwich Cardinals. This is a team I really like to make a push in the postseason. Kid Decker Curran, an outstanding offensive talent, headed off to the University of Michigan. Kyle Foote, one of the best midfielders in the Tri-State. He will take his talents to Loyola. And also some great contributions from guys like Luke Finneran, Will Perry, Jack Harrington. On defense, Jack Nail. Defense has been outstanding. Goaltending, stellar for this Greenwich team. New Canaan, another team I really think could come away with an FCAC title. If they do, it will be #3 in a row for the Rams. In a conference as tough as the FCAC, folks, that is unheard of. This New Canaan team has had some tough losses in FCAC play, but we've seen this before from Chip Buzzio's Rams. Goaltender Trent Nader has been outstanding this year for New Canaan. Also a talented offense with attackmen Michael Kraus, Harry Stanton, Justin Meichner, and midfielders Kyle Smith, Jack Gilio, Robbie Paul, Cole Turpin, and Teddy Dumbald on faceoffs has been doing an outstanding job. Now the final team, looking at Connecticut, that I think is going to contend, the Ridgefield Tigers, an impressive win over Yorktown, also beating some other teams out of the league like Garden City, two-time New York state champion. Very impressive win. And those wins, Yorktown, Garden City, without Maryland-bound midfielder Will Bonaparte. So imagine when they get him back into the lineup. We caught up with senior midfielder headed off to Providence, Mickey Carbone, to get his thoughts on what makes the FCAC so tough.
FCAC is known to be one of the premier conferences in the nation. Everybody knows that. We got some unbelievable teams in this conference, which makes the regular season and the postseason so exciting. We play so many of those FCAC teams in the regular season that it just builds up the intensity going into the playoffs, and we're just really anxious to get a few more of those in our schedule and look forward to seeing them in the playoffs.
And wrapping up Connecticut, when the finals are played at Brian McMahon High School, Class LMS, we know the FCAC teams will be well represented. Also, you got to believe Fairfield Prep is a team in defense of its Class L title that has a very good shot of getting back to a state championship game led by Princeton bound Austin Sims. And another team I like in Class S, the defending champs, Weston, and goaltender Grant Lamone, who's bound for Loyola. Now we go to the real hot spot within the hot spot. I've said many times, if you took Long Island by itself, you would have the #1 hot spot for lacrosse nationally. Now you combine it with the Hudson Valley, Connecticut, and New Jersey, and this region, it is just the mecca of the Lax Galaxy. So let's talk about LI. We begin in Nassau, Section 8, a team that I really consider, if you ask me what team is an offensive juggernaut that you really would fear if you're a defensive team, I would say the Chiefs of Massapequa. Why? You look at weapons like Craig Burge. This is a kid, a midfielder, headed off to Georgetown University. But wait, as they say in the infomercials, there's more, plenty more on this Massapequa team, including Towson-bound Ian Kirby. This team is loaded, heavy favorite, I think, to repeat as Class A champs. Other teams I like, you look at a team like Syosset that has experience, has a kid, Alex Concannon, who is headed off to Hopkins. I think they could also contend. They've had some big wins, as well as Port Washington and Princeton-bound Joey Fercaro, Hicksville and UNC-bound Pat McCormick. Other teams in the hunt, Oceanside, Farmingdale, and Calhoun. Class B in Section 8, home of the two-time state champs I mentioned, the Trojans of GC. We'll get to them in just a moment. But I got to start out with this Lynbrook team, folks. Just one loss during the regular season coming against the Friends Academy. Lynbrook definitely could be there in the end. But I do have a feeling Garden City will be there in the end. And it's really amazing when you look at the graduation losses this team has really incurred. One of the main reasons why, two of the most important elements you can have in playoff lacrosse, goaltending and face-offs. This team has that. The goalie, UMass-bound, Danny Dolan. On face-offs, he's headed to Harvard. He's only a junior. He's James Sullivan. He made his mark as a freshman, as a Fogo. Now he's one of the top all-around players in the Tri-State. And I talked to him about how he does it.
Well, I think it was just more, Coach Fennell, he really taught me the ropes, coming up early, obviously playing around great players like Berkery and Savage and Gardings, being around all those guys definitely helped me out a lot, but I don't know, just being around great guys and definitely great coaching staff has definitely helped me out a lot, so just have to attribute a lot of that to them.
The Manhasset Indians have had their ups and downs during the regular season, but this is a team that has shown some signs that it could contend for a title. A kid I really like, senior midfielder James Farrell, wearing the fabled number 32 for set. He's headed off to UPenn. Also some very talented offensive performers, Tyler Dunn, Matt Gavin. How about Manhasset? We talked to Coach Bill Cherry about the Indians and the improvements they've made and need to make to be in the hunt in the playoffs.
We just have to clean up our offense without a doubt. And, even defense, you can always play better defense. But, we just have to be disciplined. I think that's the most important thing, is be disciplined in what we're doing and trust what we're doing and get the ball in the cage.
Now for Class C in Nassau, this could be the most interesting race, folks. Last year, Friends won, beating Cold Spring Harbor in the final. CSH has been in the final 10 years in a row, but who's counting? I think it can happen again. I think it will happen again. The teams met in the regular season, and the Seahawks pulled out a 14-13 win. I really like the Cold Spring Harbor team, a talented player in Jordan Walter. He's surrounded by a great supporting cast that includes Ian Laviano, a very talented young player, as well as Colin Burt. The defense is led by Ben Jay. Just a lot of depth on this team and the hunger to win after losing last year in the final. Now, for Friends, This squad, senior laden, some of those seniors, William Sands, an outstanding attackman, leading scorer, one of the top scorers on the island, leading scorers for the Quakers. He's heading off to Bucknell. You also have the Tams, Tyler Tam and Gavin Tam, and a long stick player I really like. He's got a nose for the net. Brandon Uragi headed off to Connecticut College. We head out now to Suffolk, and there may be no more interesting race other than perhaps the FCAC in the entire tri-state than D1 in Suffolk. We'll rattle off the teams, and it is an impressive list. Smithtown West, we start with these Bulls before we move to the other teams. Smithtown West off to a tremendous start before suffering its first loss against intra-district rival, the Eastside Bulls. This squad led by Ryan Keenan, an attackman who will take his talents to Penn State University. Midfielder I really like, and Christian Zawadsky, athletic kid. He will be playing at the University of Maryland. And the defense with Kyle Matthey and Logan Greco, goaltender Matt Smith. They have all the ingredients to win a title. Other teams, of course, Smithtown East, which beat West. UNC-bound attackman Brian Willits is the real deal. If there were a draft of players in the tri-state area, I'd probably take Brian Willits, #1. He's got good size, he's got good speed, athleticism, and he's got an amazing shot velocity-wise and accuracy-wise. Also, Ohio State-bound Dan Rooney, a very underrated, skilled attackman. John Danigelis at midfield. This kid really putting it together his junior year. He's got the varsity experience, starting QB for the Bulls. And first-year goalie Billy McEnroe, folks, taking over for Brian Balcom, has been stellar for Smithtown East. Now, maybe the hottest team in Suffolk D1, Sachem North. Coach Jay Morrow's Flaming Arrows really coming on strong. One of the top players on the island, and defenseman Mike Arano. He's headed off to Penn State. Also talented short sticks in Jimmy Hoffman and Joe Caridi. We continue now. The list is long on Long Island. Suffolk Division I, also home of the defending consensus national champs, Ward Melville. The Patriots have had their ups and downs under first-year coach Jay Negus. Everyone gunning for WM after what they did last year, the 22-0 season state championship. Dan Bucaro, still one of the top offensive players anywhere from sea to shining sea. The junior is headed off to Georgetown University. He did suffer a leg injury late in the season. We'll see if we need to keep an eye on that. Also, an outstanding attackman, Jake McCullough. He's headed off to Cornell University. Matt O'Rourke, Pat Rorty, Connor McAvoy, and a defense led by Tom Riley. More teams to watch in no particular order because there's that much depth in Suffolk. West Islip, a sluggish start, 1-3 for the proud tradition-rich Lions. Now they are on a roll and could roar well into the playoffs. Half Hollow Hills West, Hills East. Both teams bear watching. So too does Northport, Bayshore, Sachem East, and Hauppauge. Class B in Suffolk, the conversation has to start with the Point. Rocky Point, beginning the year with a huge win over Smithtown East, getting the attention of a lot of folks. High-scoring Justin Ray, one of the standouts on this team, as well as Jack Sullivan, Binghamton-bound, in the face-off X. He is outstanding. And then the defense on this team, Tony Ray and goalie Pat Dallin. Huntington, with another Binghamton-bound player, Ben Kosis. The Blue Devils have had a very consistent season, look to be in good position heading into the playoffs. Another team to keep an eye on is Sayville. Now we go to the CHSAA, where it is always interesting. We begin in AA, Nassau, Suffolk. St. Anthony's reeled off 4 straight titles before Chaminade came on and won the championship last year. I look at this season, I think early in the year, Chaminade might have been the favorite to repeat, but I think right now, St. Anthony's coming off some very impressive wins, growing as a team, might get the edge. We know they will be playing in the final. It will be May 22nd at Hofstra. The goaltending, of Jack Concannon. When I mention Hofstra, I mention Jack Concannon because that is where he will be taking his talents at the Division I level, playing for Coach Seth Tierney. And now we go to AA in the CHSAA, and what a story last year. The Fordham Prep Rams coming away with the title. It didn't look like it would end that way during the regular season, but that's exactly what wound up happening for the Rams. The key for this Rams team, Joe DeLascio on faceoffs. He will be playing at Fairfield University. He will be paired in the AA final against Iona Prep's Michael Orifisi. Once again, Orifisi headed to Loyola. That is always the one to watch when it comes to the matchups. Fordham Prep with a huge win early in the season over Gonzaga, but when Fordham Prep played Iona Prep won comfortably. The teams did not have a second regular season meeting because of the addition of Kennedy Catholic to the CHSAA. Both teams had to open up room in their schedule to play the Gales. I think that round 2 for the title is going to be a toss-up. I really do. I think it's hard to pinpoint right now who would win. I probably would have said Iona Prep before it lost to John Jay, which has been battling some injuries. All I know, folks, you'll want to be there for both the CHSAA AAA and AA championship games. Now we head out to the Hudson Valley, and the action always interesting in Section 1 especially. That's what we're going to focus on this special. Also bears noting, Section 9 has been growing. You look at a team like Warwick Valley picking up a big win over North Rockland. North Rockland beating defending Connecticut Class S champion Weston. So lacrosse is growing in the Hudson Valley, but Section 1 is still the backbone and still with the known programs. And we begin in Class A, and I think the clear favorite this year is Lakeland Panis and Jim Lindsay's Rebels. Tested by a tough schedule, big win over Shenendehowa, playing Greenwich to a 1-goal game. Mamaroneck, the 2-time defending champs. Mamaroneck with Reed Malice headed off to Bucknell, could contend. There are other teams that could also factor into the mix, but I think you got to focus on Lakeland Panis, folks. And this is a team that's fallen a little bit short the last few years, has a proud tradition of titles. And we talked about that with Siena-bound attackman Brian Prunty.
We want to learn from our mistakes like that we made when I was a freshman, sophomore, and even in junior year. We had big leads in some of those games, and we kind of let the teams like hang around and eventually lose the games. So at the same time, we want to forget about the past, but it's definitely in the back of our minds. We want to learn from our mistakes and hopefully be in the same spot and then come on the other side of those games and pull out a win.
Now to Class B in Section 1, and we start where else? At Charlie Murphy Field, home of the Yorktown Huskers. This is a team, folks, that since 1979 has failed to win a Section 1 championship just 3 times. One of the most incredible feats in all of Tri-State lacrosse. This year, what I like about Yorktown is its senior nucleus, and this is a group that has been together, played together, led by Rutgers-bound Connor Veracruz. He is an outstanding offensive player, and he has had some huge games and some big wins. Also returning All-Americans, Luke Palmadesso, midfielder, outstanding in the face-off X. This kid plays the game the way it's meant to be played. Another player who is just getting better every time you see him play, Austin Fusco. He is a closed defender. He's played long stick midfielder in the past. And John Desco will have a decision to make at Syracuse as to where to employ the talents of the heavily recruited Austin Fusco. Also an attackman I really like in Nicky Bonatadabis, a talented group of D-middies as well. Thomas Rodriguez, Eric Morales, Chris Alvarado. And we're just talking about the seniors and goaltender Austin Graham, because I think the seniors on this team will determine how far Yorktown goes. The Huskers, of course, losing in the state quarterfinals last year to a tremendous Niskayuna squad. John Jay has had some big wins during the season. Manhasset, Iona Prep coming to mind. Sean Smith, an outstanding midfielder, as good as it gets. John Paul at Michigan has got himself a good one in Sean Smith. But the Indians down the stretch have had some injuries. We will see if they can regroup in time for the postseason. Wouldn't surprise me if they did. Somers, Tuskers. It starts in the face-off X. They have a good one in Justin Corpolongo. He does an outstanding job. Also, Nick Genualdi in goal. Tim Cousin at attack, headed off to Siena. A good defense that includes Eric Carnaza and company. This squad has really come on. It's played a tough schedule. It's had some big tests. It's playing well. We don't know exactly how it will all shake out, but it wouldn't shock me if this Tusker team returns to the Section 1 finals for the first time since 2010. So Somers bears watching. So too does Brewster with the Liams, DeRoss, Erickson, a good young group. Another team, Fox Lane. Keep an eye on them, folks. The Foxes beating Staples, the defending Connecticut Class L champion. Fox Lane has a freshman, Liam Bellhumer, who had 5 goals in a big win against Brewster. And also already a Division I talent on this team. We've talked a lot about two-way midfielder Cullen Morgan, an outstanding time and room shooter and dodger who is especially dangerous in the open field of future. Syracuse Orange player Cullen Morgan. And speaking of Division I bound two-way players, Horace Greeley has just that, Fox Lane's rival Greeley, and Ethan Freer, who's bound for Brown, as well as another future D1 player, an attackman midfielder, Jack Grossman, who's headed to Boston University. Now in Class C in Section 1, home of the 3-time champion Bronxville Broncos. This team really upgraded its schedule, playing teams like Garden City to a 4-2 game, playing Greenwich very competitively without Henry Grass, who's missed a few games late in the season. Broncos hoping to have the Hopkins-bound junior attackman back for the playoffs, and he should be also Bridgewater, Raritan. I think those games, playing those games, will make Bronxville especially battle-tested. We talked about Grass. He is one of the top offensive players in the nation. Of course, he has been a force on the varsity level for a while. Defense includes Jack Galinas, attackman midfielder Ted Forrest, an outstanding player midfielder Will Duncan, and one of the top defensemen you'll find in Charlie Terry. Now last year, Pleasantville played Bronxville in the final. Pleasantville under coach Chris Keir making it to the final for the first time, and I think with all-time leading scorer Brendan Halloran, they could do it again. So we'll go out on a limb, expect to see Bronxville and Pleasantville in the end in Section 1, Class C. Now we go over the river and through the woods and over the bridge from the Hudson Valley to New Jersey. It's been a really interesting year in the Garden State. You have your traditional powers that have had strong seasons, teams like Del Barton and Summit and Mountain Lakes, and teams that have emerged recently, such as Bridgewater, Raritan, Ridge, Moorestown, to name a few. One great story I have to start with, the Crusaders of Bergen Catholic, going into the year, told by a lot of folks in New Jersey, keep an eye on BC. They have been proven correct. It has been a breakthrough year for the Crusaders, led by Chris Blewett, an attackman headed to St. Joseph's University. Another attackman, Matthew Hammerly, defenseman Casey Heffernan, midfielder Brendan Mackey, and outstanding play from goaltender Matt Pedrick. Now, New Jersey, folks, has a few rounds of playoffs, obviously, the county playoffs, the group championships. You talk about non-public schools, public schools, then you go to the Tournament of Champions. So let's just talk about some of the other teams when championship TFC weekend comes in June that we very well may be seeing in addition to Bergen Catholic. Del Barton, an array of Division I talent. Connor Mackey on attack. Jordan Dowiak, J.J. McBride, Robbie Arancio at midfield. Other talented players defensively, Chad Otterman, Peter Welch, M.J. Malillo. A team that has had another BC-type breakthrough season, although Seton Hall Prep really came on strong at the end of last year in the postseason. Impressive there for the Pirates, and impressive again this year. A kid I really like, Rutgers-bound Jules Henenberg, a talented offensive player for SHP. More teams. Summit, that signature match-up zone defense. The number they pulled on Ridgefield of Connecticut, team that beat Summit last year, very impressive indeed. Bridgewater Raritan is one of the best goalies around in Luke Conan. Immaculata with the red-hot scoring combo of Wyatt Agase and Junior Griffin Vanderbeek. I mentioned also earlier Mountain Lakes and Villanova-bound Christian Cuccinello. He can do it all for the Lakers. Also Duke-bound Brad Smith on offense and Jack Sidron on the D. Northern Highlands, one of the best turnaround stories in the Tri-State this year, making it all the way to the Bergen County final, can certainly contend in the postseason. Beyond that, Chatham with four-year starters and Thomas Guida and David Gill. Other teams keep an eye on, obviously, St. Augustine Prep from down south in Jersey, Pingree, Morristown Beard, and talk about turnaround seasons, Ramapo folks, after winning 4 games last year, more than double figures in wins, heading into the postseason. Talented midfielder Josh Hobbenstock headed to Colgate University. Ridge, goalie, former midfielder / goalie, Owen Malloy this year focusing on his duties in the net and doing it well. The offense also strong for Ridge with JT Palladino, Kevin Quigley, Alex Gadish, and Sean O'Brien. Ridgewood. Add the wood to Ridge, and you have another contending team. And a strong attack with Owen Smith, Matt Shippey, and Andrew Sider. And I mentioned earlier Morristown. They've got both Mike and Brendan Hanlon, 2 of the top players in New Jersey. It's going to be a really interesting postseason in the Garden State. I would not be surprised to see more upsets than even what we saw last year, and there were some memorable ones indeed. So there you have it, folks. We hope you're a little bit more prepared now to enjoy what promises to be an unpredictable playoffs throughout the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut Tri-State region. We hope you enjoyed our playoff preview special. We want to thank the folks here at Darien High School for their hospitality and hosting us here for this show. This is Joe Lombardi. It's been a pleasure for the whole crew here. We'll see you again real soon. So long, everybody.